The simple pen in your pocket is destroying every learning app on your phone. And neuroscience can prove it. Right now, in conference rooms and classrooms around the world, two groups of people are capturing the exact same information in completely different ways. Half are typing on laptops, fingers flying across keyboards, screens glowing with perfectly formatted notes. The other half are writing by hand, slower and more deliberate, pens moving across paper in curves and lines. Everyone believes they're learning effectively. Everyone is wrong except for one group. Neuroscientists using brain imaging technology revealed something shocking when they scanned both groups simultaneously. The laptop users showed minimal brain activity, just a small cluster of neurons managing finger movements. The rest of their brain remained essentially dormant. But the handwriters displayed something extraordinary. Multiple brain regions lit up at once. Neural pathways communicated in complex patterns across the entire cortex. Same room, same information. Radically different levels of cognitive engagement happening inside their skulls. This discovery led researchers at Princeton and UCLA to conduct a series of groundbreaking experiments. They had students learn identical material using different methods. Half typed comprehensive notes on their laptops. Half wrote notes by hand. The results defied everyone's expectations. The laptop users produced significantly more content. Their notes were longer, more detailed, more complete by every measurable standard. Logic suggested they would perform better on tests. The data told a different story. When researchers tested actual comprehension and understanding, the laptop users scored 20% lower, 20% worse, despite having objectively superior notes. The reason reveals something fundamental about how human brains actually process information. Typing creates what cognitive psychologists call the illusion of learning. Your fingers move rapidly. Words fill the screen. You feel productive and efficient, but your brain operates on autopilot. You're functioning as a human recording device, capturing data without processing meaning. You're collecting information, not building understanding. This isn't just relevant for students sitting in lecture halls. Anyone in business meetings, reading complex material, or trying to master difficult concepts faces this exact challenge. The method you choose for capturing information determines whether you actually learn it or merely store it temporarily. The neuroscience behind this phenomenon is both clear and compelling. Scientists using functional MRI technology discovered that handwriting activates three distinct brain regions simultaneously. Your motor cortex controls the precise physical movement required to form each individual letter. Your visual processing centers track every curve, stroke, and shape appearing on the page. Your language circuits engage deeply with the semantic meaning behind the words. This creates what neuroscientists call multimodal encoding. Your brain processes the same information through multiple channels at once, creating reinforced neural pathways. But keyboard typing activates only your motor cortex, the finger pressing mechanism. Everything else stays offline. Consider the actual mechanics involved. Writing the letter S requires your brain to construct a specific flowing gesture. The letter T demands something completely different. A vertical stroke followed by a horizontal line. Every letter forces your brain to actively generate its unique form. Keyboards eliminate this entirely. Every key provides identical tactile feedback. Click after identical click. Your brain requires zero cognitive effort, zero active construction, zero meaningful engagement with the shapes that represent language. Brainwave research provides even more striking evidence. Scientists monitoring electrical activity discovered that handwriting produces specific patterns called theta waves and alpha waves that synchronize across your entire brain. Theta waves encode new information and enhance working memory capacity. Alpha waves transfer that information from temporary storage into permanent long-term memory. These electrical signatures indicate deep learning at the neurological level. They simply don't occur during typing. Your brain also contains a structure called the reticular activating system. This neural filter determines which incoming information deserves permanent storage versus which gets discarded and forgotten. When you simultaneously engage your hand, eyes, and linguistic processing, you send a powerful signal to this system. This information matters. Pay attention. Commit this to memory. A study from Tokyo University quantified the impact with startling precision. Students who wrote notes by hand demonstrated 34% better recall 1 week later compared to students who typed. Not a modest 5 or 10% improvement. 34% superior retention of the same material. The explanation reveals 3 critical cognitive processes that handwriting engages but typing bypasses completely. First is encoding. The physical limitations of handwriting speed make word-for-word transcription impossible. Your brain must actively decide what information matters most, then rephrase concepts using your own language. You're forced to process meaning rather than mechanically record words. Second is consolidation. The coordination between hand movement, visual tracking, and linguistic processing creates multiple interconnected memory pathways. You remember the spatial layout of information on the page. You remember the physical sensation of your hand forming specific words. You remember where particular concepts appeared in relation to others. Third is retrieval. When you need to recall information later, your brain has multiple access points instead of a single fragile connection. You don't just remember the abstract concept. You remember writing it in the margin, the motion of your hand, how it connected to ideas above and below it. Princeton researchers documented this perfectly. Laptop users transcribed lectures almost verbatim. Handwriters physically couldn't keep pace, forcing them to synthesize and summarize in real time. On tests measuring conceptual understanding rather than rote memorization, handwriters scored 23% higher. Despite this overwhelming evidence, intelligent people consistently make 3 critical mistakes that sabotage their learning. The first trap is equating speed with effectiveness. They reason that typing 80 words per minute captures more information than writing 20 words per minute. Therefore, typing must produce better learning outcomes. This logic inverts the actual relationship. When information acquisition feels effortless, your brain doesn't bother encoding it properly. Psychologists call this principle desirable difficulty. The mental effort that handwriting requires is precisely what makes it effective for long-term retention. The second trap is the multitasking illusion. Laptops create constant temptation. Check email, open another browser tab, look something up, glance at notifications. Your attention fragments into disconnected pieces. Research demonstrates that this divided attention reduces retention by 40%. Pen and paper eliminate these digital distractions entirely. No notifications, no alternative tabs, just you and the information. The third trap is misplaced confidence in comprehensive notes. You type pages of detailed content and assume you've mastered the material. But without proper encoding, nothing exists in your brain to retrieve later. The information lives in your device, not in your neural networks. The solution requires implementing 3 specific principles that align with how your brain actually functions. First principle, prioritize understanding over comprehensive capture. When learning important material, resist the compulsion to record everything. Your hand cannot match speech speed, and that constraint creates the cognitive benefit. Listen carefully, process meaning, then write only essential concepts using your own words. This feels incomplete at the moment. 1 week later, you'll retain 30% more than people who typed frantically without processing. Second principle, create visual and spatial memory anchors. Your handwritten notes should look personal and unconventional. Draw arrows connecting related concepts. Underline surprising insights. Mark confusing sections with question marks. Sketch diagrams showing relationships. These aren't decorative choices. They're memory architecture. When you review later, your brain doesn't see generic text. It sees a landscape representing your thinking process. Borrowing someone else's handwritten notes rarely works because you're missing the cognitive fingerprints that make them memorable. Third principle, strengthen retrieval pathways actively. Within 24 hours of learning something important, write a summary from memory without consulting your original notes. This retrieval practice reinforces the exact neural pathways you'll need when the information actually matters. You're not just reviewing content. You're training your brain's recall mechanisms. The pattern appears consistently among high performers across industries. Richard Branson credits handwritten notebooks as fundamental to building his business empire. Bill Gates takes handwritten notes during his intensive thinking retreats. J.K. Rowling plotted 7 Harry Potter novels entirely by hand before writing them. These aren't nostalgic preferences from people resistant to technology. These are deliberate cognitive strategies that provide competitive advantages. Successful people use handwriting for thinking, not just recording. The most powerful learning tool available costs less than $1 and fits in your pocket. Every time you choose a pen over a laptop, you're choosing genuine learning over comfortable productivity theater. You're choosing to own knowledge rather than temporarily rent it. Your brain possesses extraordinary capabilities, but only when you work with its natural design, rather than against it. The next time you need to learn something that truly matters, reach for a pen. Let your brain engage fully with information. Let it build the deep neural pathways that transform fleeting words into permanent knowledge. The difference isn't subtle. It's the difference between collecting information and actually understanding it. The difference between knowing where to find an answer and having that answer ready when you need it. The technology that wins isn't always the newest or fastest. Sometimes it's the one that works best, with 3 million years of human brain evolution. And that technology has been in your pocket all along.